दोस्तों मेरा नाम काउंसलर रंजीत धीर है तो मैं लंदन दी ईलिंग बोरो विच काउंसलर हाँ। तुहानू शायद पता ही होएगा कि 70 साल तो वध उम्र के लोगों को नैशनल हैल्थ सर्विस वालों चिट्ठियां आउणियां शुरू हो गई हैं जिन्हां विच कहा गया कि तुसी कोविड की बीमारी का जिहड़ा टीका है वो लवाओ। टीके की वैक्सीन जिहड़ी है ये बिल्कुल सेफ है, सुरक्षित है अते इहदे विच किसी भी जानवर की कोई भी चर्बी नहीं है। सो लोड़ सानू ये है कि इस महामारी की रोकथाम वास्ते असी ये सारे टीके सारे जने टीके लवाइए ताकि असी सारे ईलिंग विच दुनिया के होर देशों में दुनिया भर में सारे लोग सुरक्षित नाल रह सकन। कोविड की बीमारी की रोकथाम करांगे तां ही असीं अपनियां नौकरियां बचा सकांगे, लोगों दी नौकरियां बचा सकांगे ते अपने देश नूं अगे ले जा सकांगे। तुहानूं शायद भी पता होना है कि इस टीके की वैक्सीन बारे सोशल मीडिया उत्ते अते टैलीफोनों उत्ते कई भरम भुलेखे फैलाए जा रहे हैं जिहड़े बिल्कुल बेबुनियाद ने। जिस तरह मैं कहा कि यह वैक्सीन बिल्कुल सेफ है अते इहदे विच किसी भी जानवर की चर्बी नहीं। तुहानूं अपने जीपी दे नाल संपर्क करना चाहिए तो उन्होंने तो पता करना चाहिए कि तुसी कित्थे जाके ये टीका लवा सकते हो। जे तुसी ये समझते हो कि तुहाडी सेहत मुताबिक हुण तक तुहाडे टीका लग जाना चाहिए सी ते लग्या नहीं तां भी तुसी अपने जीपी दे नाल संपर्क करो, पर इस वास्ते हस्पताल या टीका सेंटर नूं फोन करने की लोड़ नहीं। सो दोस्तों ये टीका लवाओ, सुरक्षित रहो, सरकार दी हदायतां दी पालना करो अते इस महामारी की रोकथाम विच तुसी अपना भी हिस्सा पाओ। धन्यवाद।
Yeah, a couple of things, Hitesh, and thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, well done to you and Grace for organizing this this evening. Hitesh, I agree with Grace's point about trust within the BAME communities, and I think the best thing we could do would be to ask our medical colleagues to publish the composition of those people involved in the trials of these vaccines in terms of their ethnicity, how many BAME people from African origin, Asian origin, Latin American origin, and European origin were involved. That will really set people's minds at rest. That's the first point. Second point is that it would help, Hitesh, if we knew that what is the rate of hesitancy in Ealing broken down by ethnicity, because Grace was saying that I think the highest incidence of hesitancy is amongst Black Africans. So I think we need to know the details broken down by ethnicity so that we can work out our strategy in a bespoke way. And finally, Hitesh, I think it's good that we are vaccinating our population in Britain, creating herd immunity, but I think it's equally important that Britain should lead the world in trying to get the vaccine to other parts of the world in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It's no good for Europe and America to vaccinate their people because we still won't be safe. And I believe that in this day and age, when people are sending rockets to Mars and developing artificial intelligence, it shouldn't be beyond our wits to really manufacture billions and billions and billions of doses in a very short period of time. That's a very important point I think we need to put to our government. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to answer all those questions right now. What I will say is just immediately, you're right about the unequal access to vaccine. I know that's a debate that's ongoing. I mean, I don't know how many vaccines Britain's brought up. I think last time I read, we've got enough vaccine doses or ordered enough doses to inoculate our population 6 times over, I think. The issue about Ealing, Julian's on the call, and he'll I'll ask him to address that when he comes up later.
Yeah, just to answer the query about the data, I know that in the trial, the original vaccine trial, certainly in the UK, there were people from ethnic minorities, because one of the big groups of people they recruited were primary care staff and frontline medical staff across the country. So we know how many, for example, GPs are from minority backgrounds. So there was now whether that equates to the picture in the country as a whole, I don't know. I can find the paper and send it along. And equally, the trials were happening in places like Brazil and South Africa. So we know that there was representation, good representation of lots of different ethnic communities. But exact figures I'll have to forward on to you when I get them.
Sure, thank you.
Is he talking about the community champions? Yeah. So 60,
that's it. Yeah.
For some strange reason, the government selected only 60 local authorities on the community champions program, where £23 million has been awarded, and it's really weird. So okay, Hackney's got some money, but Lambeth doesn't. So and I asked the senior official, what was your criteria for selecting these 60 local authorities? And it was based on the death rates that was done about 9-10 months ago. I think that they should be looking at key areas of London where you've got large diverse populations, where there's a history of that stuff around deprivation. They should be getting the money, which means that every single local authority or vast majority should be getting money. Why should they be choosing Hillingdon? So is Hillingdon more deprived than Ealing? I don't know, you tell me. I don't think so somehow.
Oh, only their poor choice of MP.
Maybe, or maybe with which MP, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
MPs. Maybe that's a criteria.
Quite.
I think Debbie had a hand up.
Yeah. Debbie, is she there? Okay. Oh, I can't see it, but yeah, Debbie, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. And Grace, thank you so much for putting this on. It was overdue, and I'm just saddened that a lot of people that I've invited are not here. Patrick, I know your face from London Borough of Brent, and I want to thank you for touching on the trust issue, language, and the race disparity in the NHS, but nobody's looking at race disparity in politics, because it's the politicians that are also, in the news every day telling us to take the vaccine. And you have to look at all of these institutions, because I think this is what our community looks at. Church Road, NW10, I was asked to be an ambassador for the vaccine down there. And I said, yeah. I can't, not without the data. We need the data. When you say that, we need the breakdown. And this is another thing. We're 2021. Why is there no data? You can't tell me to speak to my community and say, oh, it's because of the COVID why this person has died. When some of the people in the community, they know their elders, and they'll know, no, Miss Brown had this, she also had other factors and whatever. Yeah. You need to give the detail, you need representation, and I'll keep it there. I'll be diplomatic and keep it there, because Ealing already knows their own issues, what's going on in their political realm. And, you can't just rely on one face to be the ambassador to tell the BAME community that, they need to get onto this program.
Yeah.
Not a question, just a point to clarify that the vaccine rollout has followed the science, in the sense that the highest risk groups was people above 80 and age-wise, so going down by age. And it's not, so if you're very elderly of whatever color, you're at very high risk. so it's right that you get vaccinated first. And then going down the age groups, people who are at higher risk because of pre-existing conditions, they will get called up earlier rather than later, because your GP will know about you and you'll be contacted. So to say that we should prioritize solely on the basis of ethnicity is probably not right. We should prioritize on the basis of risk.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, and I mean, on one level, you're absolutely correct. We have to look out for our elderly as well, but we also know the data is telling us that there's disproportionality as well. But
most of that is due to inequality, socioeconomic inequality, and poverty, and of course that also is then associated with having underlying diseases, which then make you more vulnerable to severe COVID or worse.
Which means that's why we need
there's
to.
There's no sort of, you know, it's not in the genetics that people of color are at higher risk, because when you go to many African countries, they haven't had huge amounts of.
No, I agree. That's what I'm trying to say to you. That
I mean, so it's
I
not
agree
about,
with you. It's
you know,
about
we're in any way
inequalities.
different, but when you have poverty and other inequality factors in there, then that puts people at higher risk.
No, I'm not disputing that. I mean, I run a health action zone. I spent 2 years in the Department of Health, working with civil servants, putting together the first government strategy on tackling health inequalities in 2003. So I recognise that agenda, but the point is, you know, Hitesh asked the question about how come Ealing's got resources to support the messaging and Ealing hasn't.
That's a separate issue, isn't it, about the politics? Like we're talking about MPs, who's MP, and
no, but it's about prioritisation. That's what I'm trying to make.
Yeah, so, no, I was talking merely about be called up for vaccines depending on your age.
Yeah.
I've got thank you. So I've got one more question from, I think Abdi's got his hand up. Sorry, I keep forgetting Grace. I'm sorry, but she gives put nothing in it. Before I bring you in, Abdi, sorry.
Thank you. Just to add that, first of all, Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time to come into this Zoom. In fact, it was when I saw you taking the vaccine, you put some publicity out there, and that definitely inspired me, and that's why I contacted you too, because I saw someone who looks a bit like me, save gender. And I wanted to ask you about my brothers and sisters within the Rasta communities. I've actually tried to, even just 2 days ago, I had a leaflet. The brother was inviting me into some shop, and then when he saw the leaflet, he went, no, I don't want to see this. No, sir, I don't want. You see, and I'm thinking to myself, it's quite, it's very entrenched. We have a lot of work to do. And I would like you to say something about that, because it's as if sometimes I'm being made to feel like I'm on the wrong side. I mean, I'm not on the wrong side, I'm on the right side, but I want to be able to support my communities in ways where that trust is broken.
But Abdi wants to come in, and then if there's any final comments you then want to make, Patrick. Abdi?
Thank you so much for having me tonight. And Patrick, very nice to see you. I don't think I've seen you in a couple of years now. It's good to see you. Mike, I had a quick question about, I don't know, and I just don't really know if it's happening, but are socioeconomic issues being taken into account as part of the data in terms of who to prioritise for the vaccinations? Because I come from the Somali community, and the Somali community is much more likely to be, Somali families tend to be in overcrowded homes, for example, tend to be from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Is that being taken into the data at all?
The answer is no. I mean, this is the point I was having a conversation with Sue about, that there's a colourblind approach to the vaccinated rollout. They've just used age as a main characteristic, followed by obviously people's long-term conditions. But a number of us, including the Runnymede Trust and a number of scientists and academics, have argued the data tells you this: if certain communities have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19, not just simply dying, but also the impact in terms of long-term conditions. It's been estimated by The Guardian that over 1 million people plus will have long-term conditions forever linked with COVID. And that's going to require more support. I mean, it's bad enough already if you've got high blood pressure, diabetes, and then you've got COVID to live with as well. You have 3, maybe even 4 long-term conditions you have to deal with. So there has to be a prioritisation, Abdi. I really believe that. But the government's approach, like with its approach around the whole issue around COVID and other policy areas where race is not, they've declassified race across a whole range of policy areas. That's the reality. Tony Sewell's report's meant to be coming out quite soon, and that'll be interesting what that report will say. Remember that Boris Johnson commissioned Tony Sewell on the back of Black Lives Matter to look at issues around racism. I think the report will probably look at more about the needs of white working class boys than the needs of Somalian boys, to be quite honest. So we have to campaign for that. I mean, the report that Dorian Lawrence did had some really powerful recommendations, having a clear strategy and a race relations legislation to ensure that there's proper prioritisation around BME communities. That's the kind of things that we should be exploring and lobbying and that, basically. So yeah, there's no prioritisation, but I think we have to make the case for that, which kind of leads, I mean, in terms of my concluding remarks, Hitesh, so I'll just say my bit and then you can continue. Obviously, the issue around representations, I think COVID-19 has, and Black Lives Matter has raised, and the Megan situation has highlighted 3 key things: that health inequalities, social inequalities, structural racism is alive and kicking in Britain. And we have to be part of the Black and BME communities, particularly Black people, have to be part of the process of co-production and co-design, which means it's about representation, it's about leadership. We don't want to be recipients of second and third hand advice or information, or to be told we are hesitant because we don't take the vaccine. We want to be in control of the messaging. We want to be in control around the policy development and the strategy. And if that means that in a place like Ealing, where you haven't got that representation, then you need to fix up. Please do that. That's really important. I mean, you know, Ealing, along with Brent and Hackney and Lambeth, is part of the early days of the Winners generation. You know, there's a long history in Ealing of campaigning around the Black community, fighting for the rights. And it's really sad if that's not reflected in 21st century Ealing around local government or key positions in Ealing, basically. You know, so the vaccine just exposes the lack of trust in institutions. If there's more of us in these institutions, you have trust.
No, I agree. Thank you, Patrick. That's it's a really important message, and I think that's a key takeaway for us as politicians who are on this tonight as well, and not just as elected politicians, but also activists who, you know, to go forward. I'm sort of going to leave the commission slightly to afterwards. I think it'd be unfair not to bring in the Ealing element at this stage. So, but can I thank Patrick anyway on behalf of everybody else in this meeting?
No
Sorry, properly.
I'm keeping the good work, guys, seriously. But yeah. I think, you know, I mean, I think what's really important, we need to get Sadiq back in power, and we need to work together to have a public health campaign to improve the health and equality needs of BME communities in London and in places like Ealing.
Thank you very much. I totally agree. Although it's a public meeting, I don't know if there are any non-Labour people on here, but I support it. We're all supporting today. Oh, Raj Gill, go ahead.
Is Julian still around?
He is.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, stats. I've been listening to it, and I was listening if Julian was going to mention Acton and Southall, because predominantly that's where Black community from Somalia and others live, and that's where the mosques are, and also in West Ealing. So I was quite interested to know what the stats were for predominantly for those areas. Now, the other question is about pop-up vaccinations. Now, which is good, and I think it's working in terms of gurdwaras and other places. I had my vaccine in a place near Wembley at a temple, a Hindu temple. So I know it works because there was a whole line of people waiting to get vaccinated, and it was quite efficient. So all that helps. But I'm wondering if in Ealing, some areas Ealing, there are factories which are predominantly Asians and Black people working there and Polish people. And is there any way we can get nurses and ask the employers to vaccinate to assist the local authorities? Now, the other day is, I mean, the other stats I was looking at is the bus drivers in the borough. It's quite a large percentage of bus drivers are Black and Asians, and they suffered greatly, and their death rate is higher amongst any group other than the care workers. So is there anything the council can do, try to approach the employers and ask employees to assist? And I think, I mean, our question's been asked about representation of Asian, Black people, and it's the messaging is there. There is a lack of representation of Black people in Ealing, and that political issue need to be addressed at some point. And I know it's a different matter. It may not be appropriate for this meeting, but nevertheless, there is a issue, and I think maybe Julian Bell need to look at that and see come up with some kind of a solution. There's a number of questions for Julian.
Julian, if you want to respond to that, by all means, but I do want to, yeah, you want to respond to that quickly?
Yeah, just really quickly. At this point, the challenge with the pop-up vaccine sites is actually getting the GPs and those who can medically deliver the vaccine in workplaces or at places of worship. And actually, the best place is actually and the easiest place is to do the vaccines in GP surgeries. Hence, we've got 14 acting practices that have signed up to do this, and we're hoping to get that rolling by the end of the month. We've said that we'll look at the workplace stuff, Raj, but there's a real challenge with getting those medically able to deliver the vaccine to all these different places. And I think it's probably worth, I don't know if Councillor Camadoo-Rothwell was going to talk about the Race Equality Commission, Hitesh, but that probably answers that second question. But that final question, I'm obviously very acutely aware of the need for increased Black representation on the council.
No, thank you. Unfortunately, Joanne's just had to go because she's got Karen's much to put in the chat. So, which is
we're going to be doing. Sorry to cut in, but we will have Joanna for another meeting. We know this already.
Sure.
We need to do her and the commission much more justice. So
no, absolutely. I think just want to say, but obviously she's gone. But yeah, the commission is actually up and running, and I think the important thing to stress, because it was that it's not a council commission. I think that's what she wanted to stress, which is why she was going to have Callum on earlier as well as one of the commissioners. It's important to stress it's an independent commission. Although it's kind of hosted and been organised through council as such, it is being operated independently, and I think that's what we can, you know, if you can cascade to participants tonight, Grace, the links to the commission so they can feed in, and by all means, yes, have another conversation, have a meeting before Perda kicks in. But there's one more speaker, haven't we?
Right, then,
sorry, Alyson.
She's gone. She's put something in the chat bar because she has to rush. Yes,
okay.
she has to go.